We are really lucky to have Gil Eiges here with us today. Actually, I've known Gil for quite some time. Him and I worked at Amdocs together. He was born in Jerusalem, Israel, has lived in 4 countries around the world. We're working with so many different startups from various nations and industries. After graduating from London School of Economics, he started his career as a management consultant and worked at Amdocs, leading various big, huge business and marketing teams. 3 years ago, Gil decided to make the leap and left the corporate world to pursue his entrepreneurial dreams. He co-founded Manjya, which is an online bidding marketplace that connects chefs with individuals and businesses who need catering either at home or at large events. In parallel, he consults and sits on advisory boards for several startups. He's also an advisor to Mars, a Launchpad for the innovation based in Toronto. And Gil loves challenges, opportunities of entrepreneurship. Plus, he also knows how to stay fit. He loves running, music, and cooking, and you know what? And traveling. I'm going to add to that. Gil, welcome. Did I miss anything in that intro?
No, it sounds about right. Thanks for having me, Sapna. It's great to be with you.
Oh, no. Well, first of all, I'm a big, huge fan of Manjya, which we'll tell the listeners about it. So for our listeners, at my podcast launch party, I actually used Manjya's services, and it was phenomenal. Everyone couldn't stop talking about, besides all the alcohol, but they could not stop talking and raving about the food. Like, the chef got a standing ovation. So, huge fan of Manjya and a customer of Manjya. So, Gil, for our listeners, what exactly is Manjya?
So your party is a typical case for what Manjya does. So Manjya is an online marketplace that connects between businesses, individuals on one side, and chefs and caterers on the other. And so if you're having a party, a dinner party, a wedding, an event at the office, or just if you need food for the week because you're too busy to cook, this is what you will find chefs on Manjya that can do for you. Now, the unique thing about Manjya is that we go by reverse bidding. And what I mean by that is that you don't need to go through a lot of menus and offers and numerous chefs' profiles. You actually go online, you say, what is it that you want, the client, and chefs come back and bid for your business. And you get to see all of the offers in one place. You can chat with them, you can negotiate, and then you can choose whatever you like, which is kind of the unique thing about this specific marketplace, I think.
Oh, for sure. Because what I loved was when I was actually putting in my bid of what I wanted, I actually got to design the experience. And I loved that. Like, I was like, what kind of experience do I want my guests to have? No, we're not going to be sitting down. We're going to be standing up. And it was just so phenomenal. And the different ideas of the menu items where all the chefs came back with, that was just explosive. Like, I couldn't believe it. Actually, I got hungry every time I kept reading all the different menus.
I know. That's one of the things we try to make a very personal experience. And, one of the thought process behind Manjya was that while there's so much stuff on the internet, it's not personal enough. If I go online, if I plan a travel, if I plan a wedding, if I do all kinds of things that are a little less ordinary, it takes a lot of time. And me personally, I'm left clueless at the end of the experience. And when you go on Manjya, you just say, what is it that you want? So the power is with the customer. And then different providers are actually offering you their business, which I think is the way it should be.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. And the chefs were so professional. That was the other thing too. It wasn't just like it wasn't impersonal. The chefs, even when they came, they cooked, they brought all the dishes, they brought everything. You really don't have to do anything except enjoy it as yourself.
Exactly. So we vet the chefs. You can't just go on Manjya and say you're a chef without actually going through us and making sure that you're qualified to be a chef on Manjya. We make sure that it meets all kinds of both regulation and food quality. And what we also do is we coach the chef over time to be more of a business person, work well with the customer. So we really help them grow their business at the same time.
That's amazing. So is Manjya the service, is it offered all across Canada or only in Toronto? Where is it based?
So we were across Ontario for quite some time, and very excited to say that since November, we've been also operational in Calgary and Vancouver. And the plan is to cover all of Canada in the coming months, and hopefully at some point in the next year, go down south to the US.
Nice. Oh, I'm really excited. Really, really excited. So, Gil, how did you come up with this amazing idea?
So I think, I mentioned how I think the internet should be working for us versus us working, many hours on the internet. That was one aspect. And then I met Mia Andrews, who's my partner and co-founder, and she is the founder of the Canadian Personal Chef Association. And I'm a foodie myself, so it made sense to do something together in the line of personal chefs.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So for our listeners that want to take advantage of using Manjya as a service, where do they go? Do they just go online and
just go online, you go www.manjya, that's manjya.ca, and you follow the site. It's not too complicated. You do need to fill in some details to make sure that we actually address your very specific needs. But if you prefer, we can reach out to you and give you a call if you want some coaching through the process. Normally, we see people just use the site. It's very, very intuitive. But again, we have customer service, and we're happy to give you a call if you want.
Love it. I love it. So tell me, what excites you most about this food industry or the catering industry?
I think it's the community aspect. We see what this does to people, both on the client and the chef side. People are really happy with the service, whether it's a last minute thing they need to throw and they want to impress their guests, or they don't have time to cook, or they want a very special experience. We can do all of that. And a lot of people both want to eat healthy, and also what we're seeing is a lot of allergies and food restrictions, which make the whole personal aspect of the service so powerful. And people are very grateful for that. And on the chef side, those are individuals who are very passionate about what they do, but they're not business people. They're coming out of the restaurant industry, which is brutal to most people. Most chefs get minimal wage, and they want to start their own business, and they don't have anywhere to go. And we handle all of the marketing and advertising for them. And all they need to do is do what they really love, which is to cook.
It's so true. It's funny. My friend Julie and I were having a conversation last night that one of her friends, their son has a peanut allergy. So,
Yep.
and and they have a really hard time ever eating out. So I actually mentioned about Manjya is actually a really great, an option for them. And she was so thrilled beyond belief because, to your point, people have a lot of food sensitivities and allergies that need to be taken into consideration.
Exactly. And in our case, you just drop us a line and we make sure that it's not included in any of the offers you're getting.
That is so true, because I had quite a few dietary restrictions for my guests. So I know you guys really cater for it all.
Yeah. We should get you on board, Sapna. You're really doing great marketing for us. Thank you so much.
Well, I got to experience it firsthand, so I loved it. I absolutely love the experience. Awesome. So now, as you are an entrepreneur yourself and an advisor for so many different startups, I'm sure we can learn a lot from you. So tell me, is there a kind of a great lesson learned that, you think that other people should be paying attention to?
It goes back to the whole fine balance between everything needs to be automated online versus a personal touch. And I think this was something that especially when you're building a brand and you're establishing a service, we started out, we didn't have customer service. We thought that everything was going to be done just online automatically. And, we're handling fairly large deals and very specific needs. And once we added just one touch point, which is more personal, we were able to close much more business. And so it's always a fine line. You can't ignore the personal touch, even in such a modern, automated, digital world. That was my aha moment.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Could you share maybe a sales or marketing tip for how you guys got this launched or got this awareness out?
Well, with the marketplace, that is the two-sided marketplace, you got to take care of both the supply and demand side. The supply, I wouldn't say easy because it's not easy, but we had access to a large network of chefs just because of Mia's reputation and connections. So that was, we were able to get a decent pilot group that was very supportive as we started. On the consumer side, we started with some PR and then went into more traditional digital advertising, which has been working quite well. And now what we're seeing is as we grow bigger, and I would say older, word of mouth is actually starting to have an impact as well. So those are kind of the pretty traditional, I guess.
No, but you know what? That is fantastic, because one of the things that and for our listeners out there that are trying to do something, Gil mentioned about really doing a decent pilot, and that's about the whole thing, but testing early so you can refine the message to figure out what channels are working. And we hear that time and time again from in every episode of people saying that they always test early somehow. So that is phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
The other thing is that we made a decision to bootstrap the business. I mean, we got a very tiny investment, but it's pretty much our money. So I would say that things are probably taking longer than they would have if we had raised money, but there are pros and cons, which is probably a theme for a whole podcast in itself. That was kind of how it impacted the strategy of how we marketed and how we grew the community.
No, that makes sense. Cash flow is king, so you got to pay attention
Yes.
to how you move.
Oh,
And I love that you're
absolutely.
bootstrapped because that just means that your heart and financial cash is right into it.
Yes.
So,
You know what? I wouldn't take anyone else's money before I spend some of my own. That's just my, philosophy.
oh, I'm gonna quote you on that for sure. So, Gil, you've got a fascinating background. I mean, you studied at the London School of Business. You've traveled around the world. You've lived in so many different places. There's so much we can learn about you from you as a person itself. So, how do you juggle and keep it all together? Do you have a favorite business philosophy or quote that kind of helps you stay motivated?
You know, I would say at the end of the day, I'm a pretty boring guy. However, I would say my quote, and I don't know if it's a business philosophy or just a philosophy, is that life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. Is that you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen in your personal life. If the market's going to change, circumstances going to change, and you just got to be ready for every change that comes along and take it with a smile, I guess.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Is there a popular productivity tool that you use?
I would say there are a couple of, I don't know if it's a tool. I would say it's services. So the one is Fiverr. I'm sure a lot of people know that. It's where you can get a lot of different types of services from professionals all around the world for, starting from $5, which is very, very helpful when you're a small startup and you're bootstrapping. You can do a lot of stuff with very small budget. And another tool that really helped us as an internet company is a tool called Full Story, which essentially records all of the sessions, obviously anonymized, but records sessions that are going on the website that really help us design and redesign and rethink the customer experience of how people are using the website. So I would watch recordings and see where people get stuck, get frustrated, etc., and change the user experience on the site based on the data coming from Full Story.
Oh, that's amazing. I haven't
Yeah.
even, I've got to try that myself. I haven't even heard of that one. That one's
I'll,
amazing.
I'll send you the info. It's
Eh,
great.
Excellent. That is brilliant. So I'm guessing you don't get much time to read or anything. Do you have any books that you recommend to other aspiring entrepreneurs or things that just kind of really resonated with you?
I can't think of any specific book right now that is related necessarily to my entrepreneurial life. The last book that I read was The 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss, which I think is always interesting how Tim Ferriss looks at things and tries to formalize and formulate every aspect of our lives. I would mention a couple of podcasts that I regularly listen to. One is How I Built This, and I'm sure it's been mentioned before in the program. It's just great, by NPR. Very inspiring entrepreneurs talking about their personal story and journey. And the other one, which I really liked listening to, is Seth Godin's Startup School, which was a live recording of a course that Seth Godin taught a group of 30 entrepreneurs. Basically recorded the whole 2-day seminar and cut it into pieces, which I loved listening to.
Isn't it amazing how we've all gravitated, from just not just reading books, but really gravitating towards podcasts and how much information is out there for us to learn?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
It's just remarkable. Just remarkable.
You know what? I spend a lot of time driving and I spend a lot of time running, and both are not really, I'm not able to read while I do those. So listening to podcasts is ideal.
And plus, I love the fact that they're smaller chunks of specific topics. So when you don't
True.
have time, so you can just pick and choose what you kind of need.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a podcast junkie myself. So is there a personal habit? Well, you mentioned that you run. Do you do anything else that helps you stay kind of productive?
I try to meditate every morning. I would be lying if I say that I meditate every morning, but I really try. When I'm successful and I do it consistently, I find that it helps me be more effective and more productive during the day. But I have 2 kids at home, and they they need their attention. And I don't know, mornings are sometimes a little hectic, and I'm just making excuses now. So I should be meditating more. But I find that that is helpful. And yes, exercise is what keeps me sane and keeps me an overall nicer person, I would say.
Gil, you're always a lovely person. I have never seen you ever grumpy. That's probably all the exercise and all the meditation that's coming through.
Probably.
So is there a favorite Canadian, because we have a lot of international listeners out there. So, so people are always kind of fascinated to hear about what they should visit, try in Canada or Toronto or wherever it is. And being that you're a foodie, I'm guessing you've got some great recommendations about different cities or towns or hotspots or restaurants that you recommend.
Oh, yeah. Well, Toronto is just, I think it's probably the best food in the world. Comparing so many aspects, it's just amazing. I myself like Barbuka in downtown Toronto, but there's a place that we go every now and then, which is near our office. Sometimes when we have frustrating days, there's an oyster bar right next to where our office is on Adelaide Street. It's called Pearl Diver, and they have this amazing happy hour deals for a couple of dozen oysters, which is probably my favorite food. So I would definitely recommend that. It's not famous, but it's, my place.
Love that. I gotta go check that out. I've got some friends that love oysters too, so that is definitely on the list. Gil, and finally, how can our listeners connect with you?
So you either give me a call. My number is 647-294-6940. Happy to meet for a drink or coffee. Or you can email me at Gil at manjya.ca.
Perfect. I'll put that in the show notes so everybody has it. That is fantastic. Thanks again, Gil, for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.